Joining us in studio is Musiri Tsiane from Musiri Attorneys. And thanks so much for your time. Good evening to you, Musiri. We trust that you're well on this august occasion. But just looking at, of course, there was the constant or the contention around the secret ballot with the issue now being referred back to the National Assembly. What is the process going forward?
Well, I think the next thing that will happen is that I believe that the opposition party will come again and table their motion of no confidence after, of course, having heard what the decision of the Constitutional Court would have been, the one that is brought about by the UDM, and which is an obvious one, what I assume the results thereof. There is no way in which the Constitutional Court is going to say there must be a ballot, a secret ballot voting, but what it is likely to do is that it will open up a discretion and say that the Speaker will have the discretion whether she would want the voting to be done by show of hands or by secret ballot. That's likely what the Constitutional Court is going to rule on.
Yeah. So you're saying that the probability of having the Constitutional Court rule on a secret ballot in consideration of what the rules of the National Assembly prescribe is very unlikely.
It's very, very much unlikely. It will not, the Constitutional Court will not dictate what Parliament must do. But in actual fact, it will simply reiterate the rules themselves and say, these are your rules that you've made for yourself. Apply them in that way. You've got, and on your National Assembly, you've got your rule number 103 and rule 104, which by and large give the discretion for the Speaker to either choose a secret ballot or to have a show of hands. So the bone of contention in this regard is very simple one. The bone of contention is not to compel Parliament to vote in a secret ballot, but the bone of contention is whether the Speaker has that discretion.
Yeah. I mean, they've cited, the opposition cited that there were instances as precedents that the secret ballot was used, and this would be in the same-sex marriages and the issue around abortion, but never in an expression of no confidence in the president had it been used before. So these are rules that the National Assembly would have to debate and see whether a secret ballot will be permitted in the election, or rather the recall of a president, as it were.
Yes, that's true. Remember, you had a case that was brought in 2015 by Aham, and in that, the same one, the same application, almost similar facts, that says that there must be a secret ballot that must be done by the parliamentarians in passing a motion of no confidence against the president. That application was rejected, but it left a space where you could say it was unclear what was really the issue here. And I believe that the Constitutional Court will then give a clarity in that. And thus one would say that the only clarity that the Constitutional Court is likely to come up with is to say that the discretion relies on the Speaker of Parliament.
And then what happens with, I mean, the DA, the Speaker was also recommending that the DA withdraws the no confidence motion in the president, considering that the previous one only lapses on the 9th of May, if my calculations are correct, because there's a 6-month period there. So it could still, this one is very premature, of the 18th of April. Now it's been postponed. We know that they have to make submissions and counter arguments before the 21st of April, which means another date has to be set, but this depends on the National Assembly Program Committee. What do you think that the likely outcome will be in terms of this motion? Will it actually be debated, or do you think it might be postponed to the 9th of May or 10th of May?
I think it's likely to be postponed to the 10th or 9th of May, from where I stand. And it's, one could say, it's one of those motions that at all times, I think you would have them fail because of the majority. Now, opposition is hoping that in this instance, you'll have also the ANC members voting with it. That's the only hope now. But I don't see it coming now. One is looking at rather at either the 9th or the 10th of May.
Yeah. I mean, the EFF seems very boisterous, and I suppose the opposition largely saying that they only need about 70% or 70 ANC members to vote with them to materialize this particular motion, and that in a secret ballot there's less intimidation or fear of those members in casting the ballot. In the absence of the secret ballot, do you think we'll still come up with the same result as in previous motions?
Well, whether it be that way, I wouldn't know what the members of the ANC would be. But Remember, when we vote, we do not vote for specific individuals. Instead, what we do in our electoral system is that we vote for a party. The FF stands in there as a party, the DA stands in there as a party, and so happens with the ANC. So you're most unlikely to find that the opposition, or rather the ruling party, can have an agreement to remove its own president in that. It's highly unlikely.
Yeah, and when, you know, opposition and critics of Jacob Zuma say the MPs must now vote based on their conscience and not vote on party politics. We didn't see this happen during the tenure of President Jacob Zuma, that it is the prerogative of a political party to elect whomever leader that they want, and this is a constitutionally and democratically elected president, and they cannot be prescribed to by the opposition, as loud as they're shouting, to remove the president.
Well, it's correct. I do not know, and yet why would opposition want to detect terms for the ruling party in this instance? These are the days that one would say that you would have an opposition that is desperately wanting to rule by ill fate, when supposedly what it's supposed to be doing in actual fact is that go out there, win the majority vote of the voters, and then come and rule. If you are unable to do that, don't think that you would, by any mischievous means, you're going to rule by having come into that parliament. That is undemocratic. That in itself defeats the purpose of why people would have gone to vote for the party of their own choice. Now you go in there as an opposition, you want to tell the other side and say, no, do not vote this way and vote that way. I find it to be unfounded in actual fact.
Yeah, and I mean, the president during his birthday celebrations response address was saying that there are certain nuances, and I paraphrase because he spoke largely in isiZulu, that do not be deterred and don't believe the lies that have been peddling, the insinuations, the allegations around what is going on. It's all part of the political game. And you know, and that goes back to the corruption allegations and all sorts of things around his leadership. Why do you think this is still has a leverage or commodity in the South African narrative?
Well, worse is what we're going to be facing. One will say, come the end of this year, ANC would have a new president. Come 2019, we would be having a different president campaigning to take over South Africa for the next 5 years. Now, the narrative that we've been given now, I do not know whether it will still survive come the end of December. Thus, there's so much push to say that, make sure that you remove this president as quick as possible before they elect the new president. But I take it that our opposition party undermines the electorate. They think that the electorate in South Africa are illiterate in themselves and that they don't read between the lines. They can't see what is the true picture here. They think that the majority of South Africans can see that everything else that you've been alleging, you've never been actually in a position to can prove it. You've alleged all the corruptions, be 1 or 30 of them, but none of them has been proven. And South Africans always live to tell or see the truth that it always unfolds. So I for one say that there are bitter days coming for the opposition. Yes, it can be good days for them. Now and then taking, even you can have your UDM, which was really not being a full participant in the politics of South Africa. Now it is having this, this arisal because of a constitutional court application. Lately, people will be knowing or talking about the UDM. But come after December 2017, the new president of the ANC will be singing a different tune, and it will surely not be Jacob Zuma.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Mosiri, as always, Mosiri Tsiane from Mosiri Attorney, speaking to us on the no confidence